In our headlines on this Thursday, May 29th, here in South Korea. 2 days of early voting for the presidential election begins today and ends tomorrow, that is Friday, at polling places nationwide. And presidential contenders are calling on voters to exercise their civic duty to ensure a path forward following months of political turmoil. Meanwhile, the Bank of Korea lowers its key interest rate to 2.5% and its growth forecast for Korea this year to 0.8%. Polling places nationwide open doors at 6 in the morning on this Thursday for 2 days of early voting. That being said, I have my colleague An Sung-jin standing by at one such venue here in Seoul. Sung-jin, it's great to have you on. So, what's the atmosphere like there where you are?
So Sunny, I've been standing here in front of an early voting location in Yeoksamdong, Gangnam-gu district, an area bustling with offices and business people. I've been out here since early in the morning and we've seen an influx of voters coming in to vote early before they head into work. So many that the official had to control the line, which extended way beyond in front of the polling location. And throughout the afternoon, the line only got longer with a waiting time of around 30 to 40 minutes. Now we're headed towards the end of the first day of early voting. Have a listen to what the voters had to say.
A good thing about early voting is we get to come in at a convenient time for us, especially for this time because the previous president was impeached. I cast a ballot in hopes of a president with a vision for the country.
I had come here during lunchtime, but the line was so long, so I came again now. It's obvious for me to come and exercise my rights, so I came to vote to really end the insurrection incident we had.
So far, there haven't been any notable issues with the voting process going smoothly. For this presidential election, there are more than 3,500 polling stations nationwide, with around 420 of them in Seoul.
Now, Sung-jin, this latest election, it comes amid random allegations of election fraud. Could you walk us through the voting process this time around and the efforts in place to reassure the public about transparency?
Right, to begin with, early voting takes place for 2 days, Thursday and Friday from 6 a.m. till 6 p.m. Voters should be over 18 and also bring a government-issued ID. The turnout rate in previous voting in 2017 was 26.1%, while in 2022 it was 36.9%, a record high figure. Although we did see an increase in turnout in 2022, with voting taking place on a weekday unlike previously, we may see a low number. The process of verifying vote-counting officials will be strengthened after accusations in 2020 that Chinese voting officials may have rigged votes during the general election. The NEC emphasized that it will be hiring all 260,000 voting and counting officials as Korean nationals. Ballot boxes will be monitored around the clock, and the NEC will also operate a fair election observation team for the first time to observe the entire election process from voting to counting. The NEC also announced that in this presidential election, the number of voters per hour will be disclosed by each polling station for the first time.
One more question, Sung-jin, before you leave us. It's past 5 p.m. as we speak, with less than 1 hour left before polling places close their doors for day one of the 2-day early voting period. How many voters have cast their ballots thus far?
Right, Sunny. So as of 4 a.m. at this polling station where I'm at right now, we had a voter number of 6,683 people voting, and the total for Seoul is over 1,295,881 people. Other major cities like Busan saw more than 382,000 people vote, in Daegu more than 210,000, and Sejong 52,000 and more. However, as we pass 5 p.m., we probably will see new figures, and they should be updated, which I will be back in our later newscast.
All right, Sung-jin, thank you for that coverage, and do keep us posted. Liberal Party contender Lee Jae-myung was also among those who cast their ballots today. For more, our political correspondent Shin Ha-young joins me live. Ha-young, welcome. Now, before we touch upon his trip to the polling station earlier this morning, let's begin with his campaign. What's the latest on that front, Ha-young?
Sunny, I'm currently at the Seoul Express bus terminal in Seoul district, one of the busiest transit hubs in Seoul. And as you can see behind me, a large crowd has already gathered in front of the stage, waiting for the Democratic Party candidate Lee Jae-myung to arrive and deliver his speech as part of his continuing campaign in about 30 minutes. And according to the party spokesperson, he is expected to present his plans to develop Seoul into a hub for K-culture and to transfer Gangnam into a more competitive and innovative core of Seoul's economy. And ahead of Thursday's rally, he joined a meeting on supporting startups where he discussed expanding the research and development budget and easing regulations. Take a listen.
We're now in a time when the private sector is more advanced than the public sector, so we need to shift the direction of the administration. That includes creating a chief policy coordinator for AI at the presidential office and boosting the National Artificial Intelligence Committee.
Right, and now Hayoung, as I mentioned earlier, he has cast his ballot, I hear.
You're right, Sunny. Lee Jae-myung cast his ballot this morning, the first day of early voting in Sinchon of Seoul, an area known for its many universities. And after voting alongside with young people, he encouraged the public to vote, emphasizing that it's the strongest way to exercise their sovereignty. Take a listen.
We can overcome the insurrection if people come out to vote. I chose to vote alongside young people because I hope this election marks the start of a new era for South Korea, led by its youth.
The DP today also focused on encouraging people to vote. Even though early voting takes place on weekdays, the party believes it's crucial to bring as many supporters as possible to the polls to secure victory in the presidential election. They urge voters to take part and clearly show who truly holds power in the country. The party also called on its campaign members to do their utmost until the very end. And that's all for this hour. Back to you, Sunny.
All right, Hayoung, thank you for now, and do keep us updated with the latest from the Liberal camp. Up next, we touch base with the latest at the Conservative camp, whose contender Kim Moon-soo is in Gyeonggi-do province. My colleague Kim Do-yeon is there as well and joins me now. Do-yeon, it's good to have you on. So what has Kim been saying today?
Sunny, as you can see, Kim is up on the stage behind me, currently delivering his speech for the rally here in Gumpo, Gyeonggi-do province. Now, with the early voting well underway, he's calling his set of rallies today the beginning of a great comeback. He says he's done it 30 years ago when he first ran for a seat in the parliament, and he can do it again. Take a listen to what he had to say.
I was third until the last 3 days before the election, but won it to become a lawmaker. Who picks parliamentary members? Citizens do. Who picks the president? Citizens do. We call this democracy, right? We're now at a crossroads of either going into democracy or a dictatorship, aren't we?
Claims that giving his DP rival Lee Jae-myung the presidency would result in too much power concentrated in the Democratic Party. The PPP is well aware of the uphill battle it faces, especially with its former president impeached over martial law. The party needs a dramatic shift to change the narrative. That's why Kim began today's rally in Incheon, the symbolic port city in the west where UN forces landed in the 1950s during the Korean War to turn the tide. He's now making his way eastward toward the heart of the capital region. Now, he also urged voters to go out and vote, as to turn the tide around in this battle, he needs to win through votes.
So, speaking of voting, Kim took part in early voting over in Incheon, which in itself pundits believe is yet another symbolic gesture. Do tell us more.
That's right, Sonny. As we discussed yesterday, he chose to vote at a booth in Incheon, Lee Jae-myung's district. While the camp has emphasized this, as he went on to vote with his own daughter, who lives nearby, he didn't try to force that idea. Take a listen.
Well, it's not just about Lee Jae-myung, but my daughter lives in Busan, right across the street here. We just stopped by on our way to other rallies. Lee Jae-myung could be one of the reasons.
Now, as we know, he did have questions about whether the early voting system is being managed fairly. There have been conspiracies, and with the early voting more complicated in terms of ballot transportation and counting, some conservative activists have raised questions, which Kim also partly agreed with. However, he voted early for this election and says there still seem to be questions, but the party will do its best to manage it fairly. He also says not voting is a bigger problem and urged more people to vote. That's all for now. Back to you, Sunny.
All right, and we'll let you get back to your coverage of the Conservative camp. Thank you for that report. Moving on then, Reform Party candidate Lee Jun-seok also cast his ballot at an early voting station in Hwasong City, Gyeonggi-do Province, which he added was the closest to where he lives. Meanwhile, on his campaign agenda for this Thursday are talks with tech workers, college students, and a visit to a popular street food alley in central Seoul. Also, pundits believe a merger between Lee Jun-seok and Kim Moon-soo is now essentially out of the equation as early voting has kicked off. Seoul Central Bank has slashed its benchmark lending rate by 25 basis points to 2.5% to bolster spending and investment. Our correspondent Lee Soo-jin reports.
South Korea's central bank has lowered its interest rate by 25 basis points as widely expected, bringing it down to 2.5%. The Bank of Korea on Thursday announced a rate cut following the fourth Monetary Policy Committee meeting of the year, citing concerns about sluggish economic growth.
With inflation continuing to ease and growth expected to slow significantly, the Bank of Korea said it judged an additional rate cut appropriate to help ease downward pressure on the economy. The decision was unanimous among Monetary Policy Board members.
The decision comes after the central bank left rates unchanged in January and April and lowered them in February. The decision to slash rates was mainly driven by concerns over weak growth, with domestic demand weighed down by sluggish consumption and a downturn in construction investment. South Korea's economy contracted in the first quarter, shrinking by 0.2% on quarter, a sharp downturn from the central bank's February forecast of 0.2% growth.
Domestic demand has remained weak nowadays, and also overall consumer sentiment remains subdued nowadays. But although experts have shown signs of improvement nowadays, it's clear that without a rebound in domestic demand, economic recovery will be difficult in the short term.
The BOK also slashed its GDP growth forecast for this year to 0.8% from 1.5% in its latest economic outlook report, which is released 4 times a year in February, May, August, and November. This mirrors a downgrade by the state-run Korea Development Institute and major global investment banks, all also projecting just 0.8% growth as of late April. The central bank's projection for 2026 was also lowered to 1.6%, but the outlook for this year's consumer price inflation was maintained at 1.9%. The Monetary Policy Committee also had room to cut rates as the Korean won has strengthened to the 1,300 range against the greenback after nearing the 1,500 mark and forcing the committee to hold rates steady last month. But the move widens the rate gap with the U.S. to 2 percentage points, raising concerns over capital outflow and whether more cuts could fuel home prices and household debt without lifting growth. And that's why the Bank of Korea is emphasizing that while it's open to further rate cuts to support growth, it will closely monitor both global and domestic conditions before deciding on the timing of its next move. Lee Soo-jin, Arirang News.
In other news, the Trump administration's reciprocal tariffs on America's trade partners have hit a legal hurdle at home, with the U.S. Court of International Trade asserting that the president is stepping beyond his authority. Our Shin Se-byuk has details.
The U.S. Court of International Trade struck down core parts of Trump's Liberation Day tariffs, saying they overstepped presidential authority under existing law. At the center of the ruling is the 1977 International Emergency Economic Powers Act, or IEEPA. The Trump administration cited the law on April 2nd to justify a global 10% tariff, along with higher reciprocal duties on major trading partners like South Korea, the EU, Japan, and China. But the court rejected this interpretation. It said the law was intended for true emergencies, not for addressing routine trade deficits. The judges emphasized that Congress never gave the president blanket authority to impose such broad trade measures. The ruling halts some of the administration's most controversial trade actions, including 30% tariffs on Chinese imports, 25% duties on select Mexican and Canadian goods, and a 10% universal tariff on most products entering the U.S. However, the ruling does not affect auto, steel, or aluminum tariffs imposed under a separate legal provision, Section 232 of the Trade Expansion Act, a law permitting tariffs for national security reasons. Just minutes after the decision, the Trump administration filed a notice of appeal. The White House pushed back against the ruling, arguing that decisions on national emergencies should rest with the president, not the courts. It also reaffirmed President Trump's commitment to fully exercising his executive powers to respond to the crisis and advance his America First agenda. The court has given the administration a 10-day window to issue any necessary administrative orders. If the ruling is upheld through appeal and possibly the Supreme Court, most of the tariffs would be suspended. The lawsuit, brought by the nonpartisan Liberty Justice Center on behalf of 5 small importers affected by the tariffs, marked the first major legal challenge to Trump's so-called Liberation Day measures. Shin Se-byuk, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, from the trade sector to the academic arena, U.S. President Donald Trump says Harvard University should slash its size of international student body to, quote, some 15% from 31%. Our Kim Jong-sil has the latest.
Speaking from the Oval Office on Wednesday, President Trump said Harvard's international student enrollment is too high and should be reduced.
About 31% of their students are foreign-based, almost 31%. And I think they should have a cap of maybe around 15%, not 31%. We have people who want to go to Harvard and other schools. They can't get in because we have foreign students there.
It's part of the growing pressure on the school from the Trump administration. Last month, it froze $2.2 billion in federal funding to the school. It then suspended the school's authority to issue I-20 visas, halting new international admissions.
We want to know where those students come. Are they troublemakers? What countries do they come? Many of those students were troublemakers caused by the radical left lunatics in this country.
Following President Trump's remarks, Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced a new crackdown, saying the U.S. will aggressively revoke visas for Chinese students, including those linked to the Chinese Communist Party or studying in critical fields. New applications from China and Hong Kong will also face tougher scrutiny. Trump says he wants Harvard to be great again, but not everyone on campus agrees.
The attack on Harvard and its international students is part of a deeper effort to defund and dismantle the academic world.
What makes Harvard Harvard is the ability to bring back the best and the brightest from all around the world, and that is what is under threat right now.
In South Korea, students say new visa appointments at the U.S. Embassy are currently unavailable. This comes as the U.S. moves to expand the social media screening for international applicants. Kim Jong-sil, Arirang News.
And here in Korea, on the sidelines of the annual Jeju Forum for Peace and Prosperity, a panel session was held on Wednesday to discuss ways for the southern island to better appeal to digital nomads. The session touched upon the experience that is of Estonia, given its launch of a digital nomad visa back in the year 2020 to encourage remote workers to live in Estonia while working for foreign employers. Likewise, Jeju is hoping to emerge as a productive digital nomad location here in Asia. Busan is playing host to a trade show that has on display the latest technological advances to ensure maritime security. Our defense correspondent Kim Bo-kyung was there.
a place to have a peek at South Korea's latest maritime defense technologies. The 14th edition of the International Maritime Defense Industry Exhibition, dubbed MADEX, kicked off Wednesday in the southeastern port city of Busan. Gathered were around 200 companies from 14 countries, as well as representatives from the naval forces of 29 nations.
I believe the innovative technologies showcased at this event will significantly enhance the combat capabilities of our Navy and greatly contribute to the expansion of K-defense exports overseas.
One of the most interesting features of the four-day exhibition is the direct rivalry between South Korea's leading shipbuilders, HD Hyundai and Hanwha, whose booths are positioned directly across from each other.
This is a reminder of the fierce competition between two defense heavyweights vying for Korea's next-generation destroyer, or KDDX, program. Aside from showcasing their own visions for the project to build 6,000-ton class next-gen Aegis destroyers, the two giants offered more to enjoy. Hanwha's three defense affiliates established a joint booth together for the first time, presenting a way for the future when it comes to naval platforms, incorporating manned-unmanned integrated systems and next-generation submarines targeting the global market.
In response to varying requirements from different countries, such as the exclusion of VLS or AIP systems, we are independently developing submarines equipped with lithium battery systems, enabling them to operate underwater for over 7 days.
HD Hyundai Heavy Industries also premiered a high-performance 6,500-ton class frigate to secure competitiveness in the global market, especially to meet the needs of advanced navies that primarily conduct anti-ship operations.
The frigates we are currently delivering domestically are smaller, at 3,600 tons. That is why we have independently researched and developed a new 6,500-ton class frigate capable of anti-ship operations.
LIG Next One and Hanwha Systems, contenders for next year's Naval Combat USV development program, are also showcasing their own tech. The four-day event continues through Saturday, offering a glimpse into the future of maritime defense. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News, Busan.
And staying in the southern port city of Busan, content creators, sellers and buyers are gathered there for an annual event aimed at broadening access to diverse screen productions. Park Gun-woo reports.
Camera flashes light up the pink carpet as celebrities pose and wave to fans. It may look like a glamorous scene at Cannes, but this is Busan, a major city in southern South Korea, turning into a global content hub. At the heart of this transformation is the 19th Busan Content Market, or BCM, where global buyers and sellers gather to trade content rights. And this year, BCM is opening its doors to the public. In a new collaboration with Cannes series, 9 shows were screened before their official premieres, including the Norwegian series Nepo Baby that won multiple awards.
We haven't sold this show to anyone yet, so it's very exciting if someone in the Asian market is going to pick it up. Be a good place where we can meet new producers and see if we can cooperate in a way.
Global demand for high-quality content is not only bringing stars, but business to Busan. A single drama or short-form video is more than just entertainment. It's a product and an investment. Thousands of people from 50 different countries have gathered here in Busan, all searching for the next big hit. And with deals surpassing $100 million each year, Busan has become a frontline in the global content business. Korean companies are also making moves to meet wider demand.
We're using AI in production, from editing to adding product placements after filming, saving both time and cost while improving user experience.
Arirang TV also met with buyers from Japan, Mongolia, and beyond, showcasing visions for the future of Korean content, while aiming to broaden its reach ahead of its 30th anniversary. And these efforts are fueling Korean content's global momentum, with buyers remaining hungry for more.
We are searching for the Korean costume dramas and documentaries. This is our interest.
But organizers say they're looking far beyond.
There's concern over how long the Korean wave can last. That's why we're targeting new markets and genres and linking Busan's content scene with finance and investment for future growth.
Since launching in 2007, BCM has evolved into one of Asia's key content markets. And this year's edition, running through Friday at Bexco, shows Busan isn't just showcasing content, but shaping the future of it. Park Gun-woo, Arirang News, Busan.
There will be showers in some areas on the 2 days of early voting for the presidential election. It's already rained a little bit with about 5 to 30 millimeters across the country today. Some regions have strong showers accompanied by gusty winds, thunderstorms, and hail. In addition, there will be heavy showers tomorrow as well. When there are no showers, the skies will be mostly clear nationwide. Temperatures will also rise significantly during the day tomorrow. In particular, Seoul will reach 28 degrees Celsius. The ultraviolet index will soar to high to very high all over the country in the afternoon. The ozone concentration will also be very high with strong UV rays. Tomorrow morning, Seoul and Gwangju will start off at 15 degrees, Daegu at 13 degrees. Daily highs will move up to 27 degrees in Daejeon, Gwangju, and Daegu. Clear weather will appear during this weekend. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
Right, those are the headlines at this hour here in South Korea. As always, thank you for watching.